Comprehensive plan is a policy document that guides future growth and development in a community. For Killeen specifically, when we were brought in, the biggest issue that was made or put to our attention was the streets, the growing gap between street infrastructure, street maintenance, and how we can close that gap through smarter strategic development. Within the comprehensive plan itself, we're looking at land use, we're looking at housing and neighborhoods, we're looking at mobility, we're looking at parks and open space, and we're looking at economic development. So 5 different kind of main areas of the comprehensive plan. If you look at the implementation program that we're going to be recommending, there are some big things that the city needs to get right in terms of how do you manage that growth that's coming in, but there's also a lot of smaller incremental implementation activities that we're going to encourage everyone in the community to contribute towards, whether that's property that they own, business ideas that they have, talents that they have, artists, musicians, et cetera, and then a whole lot of other kind of neighborhood improvement activities, whether it's fixing crosswalks and planting trees, or if it's bigger things from that. So we're really taking a comprehensive kind of a business and a community collaboration angle to this plan. So a number of different ways that we've reached out to the community for input. We've had the project website that has just several idea boards, general ways that people can give us feedback. We've had a number of community surveys that have gone out over the past year. There's an ideas wall, there's a mapping tool where people can drop pins. And then we also had the workshops. We've had a couple of community workshops, Comp Plan Advisory Committee workshops, but the workshops that we did several months ago were where we were here for 3 days. We went out to, I believe it was 9 or 10 different neighborhoods and walked through those neighborhoods with folks to hear what were their concerns, what did they think the opportunities were. And so we have some kind of neighborhood level input combined with citywide input. I think one overarching theme that we heard was just improving the communication and transparency between the residents and the community and city leaders. That kind of transcends everything in the comprehensive plan. Below that, kind of the 3 big technical things, I guess. One is fiscally responsible growth. The second one is diversifying housing and neighborhood types and price points to get more options out there. And then the third one I would say is definitely downtown, of preserving, enhancing downtown in North Killeen. And then that kind of connects into an economic development strategy, which is also providing more job opportunities and more entertainment options for residents in Killeen. Right, so there's an assessment phase, launch and assess, which is where we started the project. We did a lot of the kind of the underlying data analysis of the maps and seeing kind of what we have to work with in Killeen. Then we moved into the assessment phase, more of the assessment phase, which was a lot of the surveys and the interviews, those one-on-one conversations. The explore phase is next, where we start to look at different scenarios and opportunities of where do we start to put things in a way that achieves fiscally responsible growth, that does diversify housing, that does create more local opportunities. That's kind of where we are right now. So we have some different ideas and scenarios of where things could go. Hopefully the input that we get over these next few days gives us a little more specific input about what's wanted in different neighborhoods, especially in downtown. And then as we close out this exploration phase, then we move into how do we organize this into a plan that is easy for everyone to understand. It's got to be simple and easy for everybody to understand. What does it mean? How do I use it? And then it's got to be very clear in implementation of who's doing what by when. And as I mentioned, a lot of smaller incremental steps that we want to string together. That plan development organization phase will happen in the next couple of months towards working into early March. And then we get into adoption, where the final draft of the plan will be presented. It'll be shared with the community. We'll have conversations with the advisory committee, with planning, zoning, and with city council. And then ultimately it will be adopted most likely late March, early April. We would like to see things start to happen as early as these meetings this week. When we talk about incremental development, there are projects that are waiting to happen right now. So some of our team, what we're going to be looking for in these next couple of days is who has a project, who has a business idea, who has a building, and our team's ready to help kind of put that deal together with local banks and with city staff to make that happen. If we can start to string together some of those kind of projects over these next 3 or 4 months, we start to build some momentum with some of those projects while we're also finishing the plan. The first 90 days after adoption is critical to a plan like this. So we want to have some bite-sized pieces, or what are things that we can accomplish as early as this summer, June, July, into the fall. So we want to, incremental steps that we can just build incremental progress and kind of stack on top of each other. Larger developments, larger businesses like that take a little bit of time to do their market research and figure out where they're going to go. Some of those, I'm sure, are already happening. Smaller business opportunities of different restaurant and retail opportunities absolutely can and should be happening by then. That's part of bringing back North Killeen is where do we put those in downtown? So that's really going to be the first focus, is where can we do locally led things that really kind of tie into the culture of who Killeen is, and build on that. And then as you start to build that place, build that identity and that energy, you'll start to see some of those other kind of larger name organizations start to look at Killeen as well. So North Killeen, when you look at the fiscal health of Killeen, you look at the older parts of the city that were built 50 or 60 or 70 years ago, those are in need of maintenance, repair in terms of streets, infrastructure, housing. There's also a lot of opportunity there for the kind of mixed use, smaller local development that locals can do. It's more affordable to do. It's part of the incremental activation strategy. It's also, it also creates more of that identity of who Killeen is. So there's going to be a lot of effort. You'll see a lot of energy and effort in the plan on downtown and North Killeen. When we look at South Killeen and all of what we call the greenfield development areas, where new development can happen, it's elevating the standards. Higher levels of design criteria, requiring different mix of housing types. So that if it's someone that's looking to move up to a higher, maybe a more expensive home, a larger lot, something like that, there's more opportunities for that, because we've heard some of those folks have left Killeen to look for that in other communities. But we also want to have a more diverse opportunity of housing and neighborhoods for all of the other folks in Killeen. So there's a lot of opportunities to do new quality development in different ways than what Killeen has had. And so that ties into the design standards, some of the zoning codes, and some of the other policy documents and tools that the city's going to have to put in place to guide some of the newer, the newer, larger scale development that'll happen on the south side. That's a great question, and I think our team early on in this, one of the reasons that we were selected to work with Killeen is our focus on fiscal responsibility and resource stewardship, being realistic about what resources do you have to make things happen. If you make too big of promises or too big a vision and don't have the resources to make it happen, it doesn't happen. So we need, this has to be, we can come in and provide best practices and ideas from other places that we've worked, but nobody knows Killeen better than the people that live and work here. So any opportunity we have to hear from them, the more we hear from them, the more specific feedback we get, we can integrate that into the plan. But I think the focus on what can we realistically do with the resources that we have is a big focus of ours. And then part of that is, the other part is, as we hear feedback from the community of challenges to the city leadership of do this or that, also challenging and pushing back of, this is your community, what time, talent, or treasure maybe do you have, are you willing and able to contribute to the process as well? And I've been excited, the conversations that I've been personally involved with about where I think that opportunity can really marry up. There's a lot of great people and resources in Killeen that just kind of need to be connected, and that's our goal with the plan.